Welcome back to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast on CBS Sports Network. It's going to be a busy coaching carousel. We already know that. Miami open, Florida State open, Virginia open, and last week officially it became open as well. Indiana will have to hire a new coach. Mike Woodson is out, effective at the end of this season. And coincidentally, one day after Indiana announced this, that Mike Woodson will not return next season, Dusty May, an Indiana alum, was coaching Michigan inside Assembly Hall. Michigan wins the game. And afterward, Dusty May was asked about the Indiana job. Would he consider it? Does he have any message for Michigan fans? He said more or less what most coaches say in these situations, nothing definitive in either direction. But let me ask you this, because it is quite literally the first question I was asked by a buddy I work with here who's a Michigan fan. He said, GP, are we really going to lose our coach after 1 year to Indiana? How seriously do you think Dusty May will consider, if offered, the Indiana job?
Oh, okay. Dive into the mind of Dusty May. And by the way, if you're intrigued by the topic, we went long on this on our Sunday episode. Go find that in the feed or on YouTube. But let's hit on some notes that we didn't necessarily talk about on the Sunday show. I would think that if Michigan can't get a deal renegotiated quickly, and there's actually a recent comparison for this, by the way, I'll get to that in just a second. So let's assume that Michigan can't get a contract in front of Dusty May by March 5th or something. It's February 10th when we're talking right now, and they don't move to get it done in time for whatever reason, because they don't want to or they don't feel like they should or whatever. That's it. That doesn't happen. Then how seriously would Dusty May consider it if he's believed to be in the candidate pool the same way that he was in the candidate pool last year for Ohio State, and then he was for Louisville, and then he was for Vanderbilt. He just went through this a year ago. I think he is probably going to have to seriously contemplate it just because of his roots there. He has family there. His wife still has family there that live around that area. They met in Indiana. Obviously, that's his alma mater. I think it is fair to seriously consider it. If I was him, I would not take it. Now, I didn't grow up and I didn't go to a traditional blue blood program. I have not walked his path, so I'm really removing myself. But and this isn't advice for him to do it. I'm just saying if I was in his spot and I'd look at everything, I'd say, I didn't go to Louisville in part because I did not want to deal with a lot of the fishbowl-esque elements involved in that. And Michigan provided me an amazing opportunity at a proud program. No, it's not the biggest deal there. That is football, and I can operate the way that I want to operate there. And now that Indiana is open, could the heights at the absolute best case scenario maybe be better than they are at Michigan? I mean, maybe, but what if you are really an incredible coach and you go on and you win a national championship or make 2 or 3 Final Fours at Michigan in addition to what you did at FAU? I would make the argument that you're going to have perhaps an easier and better year-over-year experience at Michigan than you would at Indiana. And to be clear, as we talk on this, we don't even know if Indiana will prioritize Dusty May. But quite obviously, quite publicly, he's a prominent alum. They could have tried to get him last year. They couldn't get it done. He's doing a wonderful job at Michigan right now, which is a Big Ten championship contender a year after winning only 8 games. So it only makes sense that he would be on an alleged 3, 4, 5 name list of the top candidates. Those are my thoughts. What about you when it comes to Dusty and what you think should or would happen if IU comes calling?
Well, first, and this isn't revisionist history, Indiana's mistake was not doing this a year ago. And you and I have discussed this before. It's possible Dusty takes Michigan over Indiana if they're both offered last year. I don't know. But that was your best shot to get this done if you're Indiana. Now you got to lure him away from a big job where, his family is now settled. His kids are in school. You got to lure him away from that. You got to make him move the second time in 2 years. That's a big ask. And so Indiana made a mistake last season, not doing with Mike Woodson what it appeared they were going to eventually do someday anyway, and probably sooner rather than later. Now here we are. As for what Dusty will do, I'm not sure. What should he do? Don't even know that either. And this is one of those topics where when I was younger, I was sure of everything. When I was a younger person, I could send you the columns from 29-year-old me, 32-year-old me. And I had great advice for what every coach in America should do. Take this job, don't take that job, consider this job. And then I got older and I realized I don't have any idea what another person should do with their life any more than a person has any clue to what I should be doing with my career. I mean, we all can rate jobs, but you don't know what matters to another human unless you really sit down and talk to them. I've made career choices, and not everyone is the obvious career choice when I made it, but it made the most sense for me for a variety of reasons, and family plays a big role in that. And so I have gone from a columnist slash analyst who spent my late 20s, early 30s telling everybody what they ought to do and probably saying things like, and if you don't, you're an idiot. And now I just don't feel that way about any of this, because if it has always been Dusty's dream to coach the Hoosiers, and that still matters to him, and he can get back his family closer to more family, and like that's really like nothing else matters more than that, then yeah, he should probably do it. But I don't know if that it registers with him at all. I think Brad Stevens has talked about this before when it's constantly brought up about him coming back to college basketball or changing jobs. And he'll say, like, I've been in Boston now a long time. Like, this is my home. This is where my kids are growing up. Indiana's not my home anymore. I don't know how Dusty feels about all these things, but to find out what he will do or should do, you got to have the answer to that kind of stuff way more than you're just talking about which job is better, because he might not. Which job is better? They're both great jobs in theory. Which job is better could rank like sixth on the list of things that you have to consider if you're Dusty May and you're considering something like this.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting plot line to follow if we don't get an update, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, heck, even 4 weeks from now, even March 10th is Indiana's got plenty of time. In fact, I had a source tell me over the weekend they thought that Indiana opening the way that it did might work against them with a couple of candidates, because now you are allowing, and I'll get to what I referenced at the start of this hit, you are allowing schools, if indeed they're hoping and wanting to renegotiate to lock their guys down, now that this is so publicly out there, they can get ahead of it. They can renegotiate the contracts and kind of stave off those candidates there. There's a coach right now in the Big Ten that had a really nice year one at a spot. And that coach and that coach's representation, understandably so. Okay, you get in year one, you did a good job, and can we talk about maybe renegotiating the contract? And this coach is old school, and the leadership there decided to drag its feet a little bit and wasn't active on it. And then what happened? That coach bounced after a year, went to a different job where he's thrived since then. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Brad Underwood, obviously.
Correct. Brad Underwood was at Oklahoma State for 1 year. Oklahoma State was slow to move, and then he went to Illinois. And since Brad Underwood's gotten at Illinois, he's basically run the second best, at worst, third best program in the Big Ten since he got there, right there with behind Purdue. And then you want to call, Michigan State or take your pick there. They've done a great job. Michigan is now in a spot here where if it wants to not be in that same spot, it should renegotiate with Dusty May, who is, again, we're only 1 year in. There's no guarantee that Michigan is going to be a top 20 program for the next 8 years if Dusty May is there. But if you don't want to lose him to Indiana and you're really satisfied, this is how it goes. And you're going to have to renegotiate or take the chance that he's just going to be satisfied enough with where you're at and not choose to go to his alma mater.
I would have an extension, like for all intents and purposes, I would have an extension with a raise and everything he thinks he needs on his desk now. Because you're exactly right. What happened with Brad Underwood should be a lesson for Michigan and every other school that's got a coach they love who is in high demand. Because I don't think Brad had any interest in going to Illinois. Just like the job's open. No. The way that goes down is these guys are all represented by about 5 people, and they're all talking to athletic directors nonstop. In Brad Underwood's case, it's Brett Just. I don't know exactly how that went down, but it was something like this. You're an agent representing a million coaches, including Brad Underwood, and you're on the phone with the Illinois people. And you're trying to help them find their next coach. They're talking to you because it's 4 of the clients they're interested in are under your umbrella. And then something like this gets said. Would you be interested in Brad Underwood? Well, of course, but like he just got to Oklahoma State. He's not leaving Oklahoma State after a year. He might. You interested? Well, why would he be upset? Because we've been trying to get a new deal done with them, and they kept putting us off the entire season. Yeah, let's just talk after the season. Yeah, let's just talk after the season. And then ultimately, they said, all right, fine. But feelings get hurt. Egos get burned. And then somebody else, think about what you got. You got one employer telling you, just wait, we'll talk later. And another possible employer saying, please come, we'll give you everything you ever wanted. Well, that's how you get pulled out the door. And if you were Michigan, that's the last thing you would want to happen. In other words, if Dusty May leaves you for Indiana someday, make sure if you're the athletic director there, you can stand up and tell your fans that was his heart. There was nothing we could do. Trust me, from the moment the Indiana job opened, and even before that, we were trying to get a new deal done. He did not leave us for money. He did not leave us for resources. He left us because his heart is in Bloomington and we can't do anything about it. You got to be able to say that if you lose him. If it's ever about money or you drug your feet or any stuff like that, well, that's how you didn't handle it properly. And I'm assuming Michigan will learn from that Oklahoma State lesson. And if they lose their coach, it'll be for the reasons I just explained. It won't have anything to do with contracts.